Hello and welcome to another Magic 2015 gameplay. Today we're taking a look at a Grixis control deck with lots of spells and very few creatures. And this list was inspired by a deck list posted on the No Goblins Allowed forums. It's a great place to take a look around. But let's jump into this deck list because it's a very exciting one. We've got 4 Think Twice, just the good old regular Think Twice. Goes very well in any type of draw go control deck where you just say go with lots of mana up, so you can either kill the opponent's creatures, counter something, or if nothing happens, draw a card, and that's why Think Twice is so amazing. Then Negate I included because red, black and blue are not known to deal with enchantments or artifacts that are resolved. So Negate helps with countering those, and it also helps countering cards like Planar Cleansing, which can be a problem. So that's why I included the 2 Negates. It's cheaper and easier to cast than something like Dissolve, so that's why I went with the Negates here. Then Inspiration, more card draw at instant speed, more or less an upgraded version of Think Twice, a little less versatile but still very good. Then Traumatic Visions is a nice counterspell that also allows us to cycle it for 2 mana to find a basic island, swamp or mountain. So in the early game you can use this to get more lands, and in the late game you get a 5 mana counterspell. Then Tribute to Hunger is a nice edict effect removal spell that also gains us some life, so keeps us alive for longer, and it's important to have cheap removal for small creatures, so when you cast Tribute to Hunger, it's gonna get their biggest creature. So that's why we have cards like Shock and Anger of the Gods. But first, Runescar Demon, just a big finisher that can find another finisher or a answer for a threat or something that the opponent might have. Just an excellent creature and a very good curve topper in any sort of control deck. Then Banefire is another win condition. If you're in the late game and have lots of land, this can just kill the opponent, and you can also use it on creatures if you have to. Then we have Shock, just cheap, good early removal that deals with the more aggressive decks. While we play our clunky tapped lands, we can still keep up a Shock, which is nice, and can sometimes get people out of nowhere when they're trying to enchant their creature, and you get a 2-for-1. Then Anger of the Gods is just the good old regular sweeper. 3 mana, 3 damage, exiles creatures, so good against graveyard strategies, and very necessary. Then Resounding Thunder is another instant speed removal spell, only deals 3 damage, but in the late game you can cycle this for 8 mana, and we have a couple of green sources in our trial lands, so we can cycle this, so we get to draw a card and deal 6 damage to a creature or player. So like the Traumatic Visions, this is a versatile card that's both good early and late, so that's also nice to have in a control deck. Inferno Titan has immediate impact when he hits the board, can get rid of a creature or 2, or go to the opponent's face and closes out games pretty quickly. Then Obelisk of Alara, we have a couple of splashed trial lands that can help use more of these activations, like the white one to gain life is also useful in a control deck, and just an all-around powerful card that's difficult to get rid of. Then our finisher of choice is probably Kozilek, just because he's so hard to remove. Even if the opponent kills him somehow, he keeps coming back because he gets shuffled into your deck. Also helps against the few mill decks that are out there, as you can't get milled as long as Kozilek is in your deck. And just a great finisher that also draws you 4 cards even if it gets countered, so pretty nice. And then finally Augur Spree, another removal spell, easy to cast because it's just single black, single red, and deals with more annoying creatures like Stormbreath Dragon or Brimaz, for example, that the 3 damage spells can't kill. And then taking a look at our lands, we have 25, running the full 4 Izzet Guildgate, then 3 Savage Lands for the Resounding Thunder, so we have some green sources. 3 Crumbling Necropolis, just the Grixis control, the Grixis colored land, and then 2 Arcane Sanctum for the white. We get for the Obelisk of Alara to gain 5 life, so that's also nice. And then 13 basics, so we have 13 basics and 12 tap lands, which is a good balance. 6 mountain, 6 island, and 1 swamp. As you can see, blue and red are our main colors, with a little bit of black. So that's the deck. Now let's jump into a game. Alright, let's take a look at our opener here, which is not really that great. Kozilek is pretty much a dead draw. We don't have black and red, so we can't actually cast this Augur Spree. And Banefire is not really a very good early game card, so I think we can try another one. Alright, this is better. We have a lot of different removal and traumatic visions to find more land. Let's see, we want to lead with, I think we go with the Savage Lands, so we have black available, but probably doesn't matter all that much, since next turn we will likely just play the Izzet Guildgate. Alright, Forest. Let's go with the Guildgate, and we still have this Shock available. Double green, Elvish Pioneer, so our opponent's gonna ramp a bit. Does have another land, another forest. End of turn. And I usually wouldn't shock this, but given that we have so much removal and that otherwise Tribute to Hunger is a dead card, might as well get rid of him now. Alright, let's see, we can keep up Augur Spree and Tribute to Hunger, or we can play a tap land, but I think we can play basic here, so we can play one of our removal spells, and then next turn play the tapped land and have the other one available. So on turn 5 we can keep up Traumatic Visions, and blue or red doesn't really matter. So let's say go, and hope our opponent plays a creature we can kill. Alright, that's perfect. Hexproof does not get around edicts. So will also gain us 3 life. And now we play the Necropolis. I am a little worried about a second Hunt Beast followed by a bunch of enchantments, but that's totally fine. And I think we'll kill it. Might be a little premature, but now we do have Traumatic Visions up for something very large. Kind of want to keep it for a creature with an enters the battlefield ability, so it doesn't get any value. Alright, that's totally fine. We also need to find some more card draw spells along the way, because our hand is almost empty here. Alright, so now we have Shock and Traumatic Visions up. Not gonna shock the Visionary if I don't have to. Let's see. That's fine. We can Banefire that. I'm not gonna shock the Elvish Mystic, because now we don't have an Edict in hand, so there's not really a reason to. I do think we Banefire. Let's see. I guess a Titanic Growth is +4, so there's no reason to go more than 3, because all instants in green pretty much would counter this no matter what. So even going for Axis 6 wouldn't really make a difference. Alright, so opponent didn't have one of those instants. And now we still have Shock and Cycle available. But again, we are pretty low on cards. Cultivate's fine. Guessing he's mono green. Yep. Only has 2 cards left. But our shields are down at the moment, so if he has another big beast, then we're in trouble. Does not. That's good. But we, on the other hand, aren't doing much. Don't have any card draw going, don't have any finishers. But at least now we can sit on Traumatic Visions and counter something big. Opponent on 10 lands is a lot. We are on 8 lands. I'm totally fine taking 1 a turn. And there's Inspiration. Let's see, it's a little risky to play it if we don't hit a untapped land, because then we don't have Traumatic Visions up. So I'm just gonna say go. This does mean that if we did draw land, we didn't play it here, but I think that's fine. Alright, another Pioneer, totally fine. Alright, opponent's on empty. So now I'm actually gonna cast this Inspiration to see what we draw. A bunch of shocks, so now it's totally fine to kill the Visionary. Alright. Play Guildgate, say go. Still need to find one of our finishers. This is kind of a problem. Anger of the Gods would still kill it. If we draw an Edict, we can also kill it. I think we actually let this resolve. It's a little bit annoying, but we haven't seen any enchantments from our opponent. The only problem could be an Advocate of the Beast that puts it out of Anger of the Gods range. But I'm more scared of something like a Palaka Worm hitting the board, or perhaps a Genesis Hydra, which would still actually put another creature on the board, even if we counter it. Alright, now we do kill the Pioneer, because now our life total is gonna go pretty low pretty quickly. 3 a turn is not nothing, but we should be able to find an answer in the next couple turns, hopefully. If our opponent does find an Advocate of the Beast, I do think we have to counter that one. Instead, it's gonna be a Phyto Titan, which we will have to counter, because 7 a turn is a lot, and now it doesn't get any value from dying and returning. I guess not countering the Hunt Beast paid off. Still more lands, it's not great. But at least now we can cast our Kozilek if we draw it. Opponent also drawing tons of lands. Alright, we're at 10, so 3 more turns and then we're at 1. And there is Inferno Titan, right on time. Yep, seems good. We can't kill the Hunt Beast, but we can block it. And we can even pump the Titan for like 7, 8, 9 every turn. So 15, the opponent would actually be dead if he attacks this turn and doesn't have another creature. So that's pretty impressive. Enlarge is not gonna happen. So would have actually been able to kill the Inferno Titan. Well, they both would have died, as we could have pumped the Titan. Alright. Now we'll just attack. Opponent has to chump. This is a little bit risky if our opponent does draw an enlarge, but since he does have to chump here, otherwise he's dead, then we don't run that risk. And opponent doesn't see the pump here, so he's gonna be dead. Let's move on to the next game. Alright, let's take a look at our opening hand, which does have Traumatic Visions to find a third land, an Inspiration, so I think this is borderline keepable. We have black and blue, we can find red with Traumatic Visions, and we should be good. Alright, let's lead with Arcane Sanctum. And then next turn we can cycle on our opponent's turn to find a mountain. Playing against double Arcane Sanctum. So could be an Esper control deck perhaps. Alright, so we did find the mountain ourselves. So now we don't even have to cycle this if we don't want to, because we have 4 lands. So we can cast Inspiration, probably find more lands, so we might want to keep the Traumatic Visions as a hard counter. And let's see what our opponent does here. If he doesn't play anything by turn 3, it's likely to be a control deck. Looks like it. Alright, Banefire, it's not bad. So these shocks are not gonna do a whole lot. Perhaps Tribute's not gonna do much. But at least we have insurance in case something does go wrong. Another shock. So we can actually start thinking about just shocking the opponent every turn. That's 6 damage over here, plus at least another 3 from the Banefire. So we're already like halfway our opponent's life total. But here we're just gonna say go, keep up Inspiration. We might also want to think about cycling the Traumatic Visions. Alright. Opponent doesn't do anything. Let's see. Think he will counter this Inspiration if we go for it. But I don't think there's a way around it. Doesn't counter it, and we did find our 5th land. So now we have Traumatic Visions up, and I'm feeling pretty good about this. We have to discard. Well, let's discard one of our shocks, I guess. I'm not gonna play the shock just to get around the discard, because we do want to have Traumatic Visions up. Squadron Hawk, you say? Well, it's sort of annoying, but we do have shocks to deal with them. So it does provide the opponent with a lot of advantage, perhaps. But at least we're using these shocks, and we can keep Traumatic Visions for something larger. It's totally fine. Alright. So the plan of burning out the opponent is pretty unlikely. So now we're gonna probably take 1 damage a turn here. as we can say go with Traumatic Visions up. If the opponent does play something large, we can always Banefire the Squadron Hawk and then Tribute to Hunger whatever the large creature is. Another Squadron Hawk does make that less likely though, but we should be able to counter whatever large creature our opponent plays. These are just creatures, don't really care about countering them. So this is a little weird that suddenly our opponent played all these creatures. Would like to see an Anger of the Gods actually. Would be a pretty good draw. I guess Inspiration will do. So 7 lands. Think we can take a beating for one more turn and then go for an end of turn Inspiration if we don't have to use Traumatic Visions. And we might be lucky and find an Anger of the Gods. Should we not find it, we can also think about perhaps using Tribute to Hunger, although we'd like to keep that in hand for something larger. But no need to use this in our turn. If we find an Inferno Titan, for example, that can just clear away 2 Squadron Hawks. So we're not in a terrible spot, I would say. Interesting that he goes for the single attack here, as he could have dealt more by attacking with the Hawks as well. And a Chasm Skulker, I guess is fine. Yeah, let's just let it resolve. We can kill it before it gets a counter, if we really need to. I would really like to find an Anger of the Gods. There it is, 2 of them. Wow. Guess I'm just super lucky. So let's see. 5, 7. So casting an Anger of the Gods here does leave us open to our opponent resolving something big, while if we wait one more turn we can Anger and have Traumatic Visions up, which I think is good. And this, when it dies, so if we Anger of the Gods the Skulker, then he doesn't get the Squid tokens because this goes to exile. So I think we can take one more turn of abuse and then turn things around. Perhaps our opponent plays some more creatures here. Gargomazoa is totally fine. Dies to Anger of the Gods. So we're taking 6 down to 9. Opponent's still electing to attack with only 1 creature, which I don't really understand. Not sure what they're playing around. Not much we're gonna do here. Alright, time to Anger. Does he have a counter for it perhaps? Does not. Alright. Let's say go. We have counters for days, card draw and removal. Talrand, you say? We have a second Anger, so it's fine. Is he gonna make a couple of Drakes now? Let's cast an Inspiration. And there's a negate. So must have drawn the negate either now, or he just didn't care about Anger of the Gods and was protecting his Talrand all along. But I do think Talrand requires an Anger here. Alright. So hopefully our opponent's out of Talrand and he doesn't have a second one. Does not. Alright, so triple Traumatic Visions should be pretty decent. So all we need to do now is find a way to close out the game. As our shields are up. Kozilek would be a pretty good draw, as we can even cast it next turn. The demons would be pretty good. Let's just say go here. Think we are the more control deck of both decks, so we usually benefit from these situations. Wall's totally fine. No need to counter that. Opponent's got 5 cards in hand now. Cloud Shift. So could our opponent be... Actually, think we can Tribute to Hunger this. Means our opponent pretty much gets 2 for 1 here. And we also gain 4 life. And the tribute would get the wall anyways. Alright. This is also a spot where cycling the Resounding Thunders is pretty great. Because it doesn't lose us any card advantage, but does deal 6 to the opponent. So then he gets in Banefire range. Think Twice is an excellent draw. Think we can keep it up at instant speed, so we have still another Traumatic Visions up. Opponent doing nothing. Let's cast Think Twice. There's Kozilek. Let's flash back a Think Twice. Great. There's the Resounding Thunder I was talking about. Do we want to tap out for the Kozilek is the question now. Let's see, we have 7, 9, 2. So we can actually negate a counter spell here, which does make me want to play this Kozilek. Opponent's very likely to have a Planar Cleansing. Do we counter this Nullify? Think does lead give our opponent a chance to resolve perhaps a Sphinx Bone Wand, but I think we do actually want to close out this game. Does he have another counter? Doesn't look like it. And there's our demon. And 2 Banefires should be enough to close out the game also, if he does have a Planar Cleansing. Let's discard some lands and a Traumatic Vision. Arrest. It's kind of annoying. But at least now if our opponent does go for Planar Cleansing, we get our Kozilek back. I think the plan now is just to cycle Resounding Thunder end of turn and then Banefire out the opponent. Let's see. Think Twice, totally fine. A Skulker is totally fine. Flashback Think Twice, grow the Skulker. Don't really care about that. Opponent's almost tapped out, so it's very unlikely that he has many counter spells for our burn. And you can't counter cycling, so that's pretty good. So that's 6, opponent down to 14. We draw a card from the cycling, draw another card. Let's see, so opponent's at 14. 5, 7, 8, 9, plus another 5 is 14. So we're actually one short of killing the opponent here. In which case I don't hate just running out the Runescar Demon. Opponent pretty much has to counter this, and we can counter back. And I think we can look for another negate if we still have it, just to make sure nothing happens. Say go, and then next turn we can attack with the demon and use a Banefire. If opponent has a planar cleansing, we can negate it, even though it wouldn't be terrible as we get our Kozilek back. Arrest, I think we can afford to negate. Let's see, does the opponent have a follow-up? Baneslayer Angels, not bad. If we draw an untapped land, however, it's gonna be a game. Instead we draw Inferno Titan. Let's see, the Angel has protection from demons, so if we attack with the Runescar Demon, our opponent just gains 5 life. So we would have to double Augur Spree the Angel, attack, and then we have 8 lands left, so we can Banefire for access 7, which would be 1 point short again from killing the opponent. So I think we just double Augur Spree the Angel, and then another option here is, let's see, if we Banefire for 1 the Angel now, then we have 7, 8, 9 lands left, and then that would actually do it. Does, however, get stopped by a counterspell, but I think we can just close out the game here. We could also Augur Spree our own demon to make it deal 4 more damage, but I think I would rather keep it as a removal spell. And now Banefire for 8 players. That's gonna be a game. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this deck as much as I did, and as always, have a nice day.